Nicki Minaj sat down with Bryce Crawford and admitted something about the music industry that I think we already know about. She admitted that the music industry is not pushing people towards God. And so that should really make a lot of Christians, think about what we're actually consuming. So I do want to take a look at these particular clips, but I do want you to pay attention because she does answer the question that I think a lot of people truly want to know about. Is the Illuminati real? So let's look at these clips. But before we get into it, please do me a quick favor by hitting that like button, subscribe, and if you enjoy more faith-based content, and please share this with your family and friends so that we can be a blessing to each other. Let's get into it.
You have been in some powerful rooms and powerful places growing up in many aspects of your life. I mean, I got so many questions on this, but being just in general in the music scene for a second, do you think that the music scene as a whole, just a broad statement, do you think the music scene is very demonically organized? Is there a lot of crazy stuff that happens in there? Can you kind of tell me a little bit about that?
Well, it sure isn't driving people to God. It's, it definitely isn't making people want God more because it focuses on the worship of material things.
And honestly, I think that answer right there is very important as we're going to continue down this clip, because she's pretty much saying that the industry isn't actively driving people towards God. And honestly, we should already know that. We should already know that by the things that we consume, depending on whichever genre that you listen to, that they're not actively, especially with the executives and the business aspect that's behind it, they're not pushing people strictly towards God. And honestly, I just think that a lot of Christians just truly need to understand that for themselves, and they just need to know that. But let's continue.
And we all play a part in it. I've played a part in it, of course. It's not healthy over time. It's not healthy mentally and for the soul, emotionally. I mean, look at all the young people right now that have to grow up in the Instagram era where everyone is, editing and photoshopping, and everyone thinks the other person looks like that in real life. Yeah. And these children, I can't imagine. I always think about this. I say these kids are so strong because I cannot imagine having to have dealt with this while I was growing up, and while you're changing, your body, your face, everything about you, and is changing, and then you have to constantly compare yourself to other people. And what does that do to the self-esteem of these young people?
Yeah.
That's what I care about. Like, I care about long-term, what is this doing to these young people that have to now grow up in this world post selfies and post Instagram and post, the Photoshop era, what is that doing, And
I think that's an important question too, because it's kind of like you're asking yourself, what is this feeding into me? Like, what is this thing that I'm listening to, the thing that I'm constantly consuming all the time? What is this feeding me? Like, is it stirring up holiness in me, or is it stirring up something in me that is kind of like unattainable? Like, especially with the music that we're listening to, and also the visuals that come along with it. And honestly, thank God I didn't grow up in a particular age where, social media was super prevalent. Like, I had to be outside. So I can only compare myself to people that I see at school, or I see on my everyday basis. I'm thankful that I didn't grow up in a social media era where I just have to constantly see things that I know good and well it's unattainable. So the music industry kind of pushes that. Like, a lot of the modern entertainment, it's built around making people feel like you're just never enough. You don't have enough money. You need to get more money. You don't have enough attention. You need to get more attention. All right. In order for you to get the status, you got to get that. You got to have a better body, a bigger platform. It's just constantly feeding something that you will never be satiated at all.
I guess I feel a sense of responsibility too a lot of the times, because a lot of the stuff that I was rapping about, I didn't, I was so young too. I didn't realize that there are young people listening to it and how it could probably make them make certain decisions that wasn't, really thought out. Now, if I could do it all over again, I would have changed a lot of things that I said, because I just don't like the idea of thinking that these people will now grow up wanting to change themselves as opposed to loving themselves, you know? Like as opposed to seeing how beautiful they are and realizing how much they have to offer the world just the way they are. That's what I think. That's what I think is very demonic about the industry as a whole, is that it makes people feel that they're never enough. And if you feel like you're never enough, how can you be happy?
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't think that that's just a self-esteem issue that she was talking about. And we're going to go over it within the Bible in just a minute. I do think that it's spiritual because it actually warns us about this. Let's go to 1 John chapter 2, and I want to read verses 15 through 17. And this is the warning about the world. It says, do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For everything in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride in one's possessions is not from the Father, but is from the world. Verse 17 is important. And the world with its lust is passing away, but the one who does the will of God remains forever. That is what so much of the industry kind of sells. We see nothing but lust, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life. Now you're seeing on social media, we got OF popping off like crazy, money all over the place, guys posting up on cars that they rented all the time. But a lot of these kids don't even know that those are rented cars. You got power, status, vanity, self-worship. It's all over the place. And the things that I want to say is we just have to test the fruit and have a higher level of discernment because we already know that these things are out there. Amen. We know that the industry is constantly glorifying a lot of lust, a lot of greed, rebellion, and violence and vanity. Like it's times 1,000 over the roof. And that's why I think a lot of Christians have to stop treating their entertainment and a lot of the things that they consume and they bring into their hearts as just neutral. You know, even I had to do that. I'll be honest. I used to listen to 3 6 Mafia when I was younger. And now all of a sudden, if I try to listen to it now, I'm just like, man, that kind of bothers me. You know, it bothers my spirit. You know, I know better now. And there's nothing wrong with that. You got to train your appetite. You got to train your desires. You got to train those things. And over time, you can become comfortable with things that used to convict you. But at the same time, you also have to understand and be careful about what your eyes and what your ears and the things that you're bringing into your body. Like you have to be careful with those things because it could potentially change you over time. Now, Bryce finally asked her the question that I think a lot of Christians truly want to know about with artists being so deep into the music industry like Nicki Minaj. Is the Illuminati real? And I want you to pay attention how she answers that and notice, the things that she doesn't say, but also notice the things that she does recognize from what she truly experienced while being, very prevalent in the music industry.
Is the Illuminati real? Like, is that, I know people use that label to name like, okay, powerful people, but so take that with a grain of salt, like that label of Illuminati, like as a group, like, is there an actual group of powerful people that kind of control everything?
Okay, let me say, my situation I feel like it's very personal. Like, I feel that there definitely is a group of people that have made things very difficult for me, but I don't know if they're Illuminati. I don't know what they are. I always was looking at it as if this was a personal issue, that one person didn't really like me and they happened to be in a powerful position, and they were able to use their influence to make people go against me. And that because, they couldn't get certain money with me, that, they wanted the money not to come to me. I never looked at it as if it was like an entire secret society against me.
Yeah.
But who knows? It could be. It could have been. Who knows? But however, it definitely has been spiritual. Now, what they call themselves and what they proclaim to be, only they could tell you that.
Yeah.
But has it been a spiritual warfare? Absolutely.
Now, I hope y'all paid attention to that part because I felt like that was very interesting, the way that she was saying, answering that particular question. Like, I don't know what they call themselves, but at the same time, it has been spiritual warfare. Like that is an absolute thing. And I think that's the part where Christians have to have some balance with this, because I think a lot of people get caught up in the secret societies, in the symbolisms and the hand signs and the conspiracy theories, that they truly miss the true biblical truth that comes along with that. Because the Bible already told us that we're going to wrestle with things from a spiritual warfare perspective. Let's look at Ephesians chapter 6, and I want to read verse 12, and it says, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers of this darkness, against evil spiritual forces in the heavens." So no, Christians should not need to prove every Illuminati theory and try to connect every single dot to truly understand and prove that spiritual warfare is real. We already know this right here in Ephesians chapter 6, all right? There's many spiritual forces that's behind darkness. There's many systems in this world that is opposing against God. It may not be called the Illuminati, but there are many powerful people in powerful places, even in our local areas, even at our jobs, that can influence things in certain corrupt ways. But our focus should not be on that. Our focus shouldn't be on the fear of that. Our focus needs to be on discernment, because the devil is already going to do and show up and do evil things the way that we already know what's going to happen. Amen. We already know that. Sometimes it's going to be in a way of temptation that looks like success. Sometimes that compromise is going to look like applause. Sometimes that bondage is going to look like fame. We already know that these things are going to happen. But sometimes we have to understand that not every open door is from God. So we know these things. But at the same time, we have to understand that we already know that the struggle is going to happen based off of God's warning here in Ephesians 6. All right. Because we may not be in the music industry ourselves. We may not know all the ins and outs of the music industry, but we're still going to face the same type of temptations that they will face, just in smaller ways. Wanting attention, wanting the validation, wanting to fit in, wanting to be accepted by people, just like how Hollywood and the music industry is already set up. We just do it in our local areas. It's no different. And I think the biggest takeaway from this entire interview, if you do want to check out the whole interview, I'm going to leave that link in the description box down below. I think the biggest takeaway is this: music is not as harmless as people pretend it to be. It's not, especially when you're actually in the industry and you see the back doors and you see the things that are going on within the industry. It's not as harmless as people make it out to be. Amen. And that's why we have to have a higher level of spiritual discernment. Music can get into your mind. It can actually cloud your emotions. It attaches yourself to your memories, your desires, your sin, and the type of things that you do on a regular basis that you already deal with, whether it's lust, whether it's pride, anger, and identity. So if you're constantly listening to certain music that glorifies sin, and it, attaches to your life and your heart, and it makes you act out that sin on a daily basis, even when you're not listening to the actual song, then you might need to take a step back. If a song is truly making you want to change yourself, or you're listening to an album, let's just say Nicki Minaj, we already know the type of music that she used to make. But if you're listening to that and you're just like, oh my gosh, I gotta be a barb, I gotta change myself, I gotta alter, the way that God made me to be, then you might need to take a step back. Like, you might need to reevaluate yourself, okay? Because the music itself, isn't going to do that. But at the same time, if you're constantly listening to it and you're applying those messages to your life, then it's a problem. Eventually, it's going to turn, making your obedience turn into obedience to the actual message, into the things that the song is actually portraying. So you might need to have a higher level of discernment and take a step back and just say, listen, this ain't for me. It's turning me into a different person. But the main warning that I want to, point out from this particular conversation is this: don't let the world disciple you. Don't let it. I've been down that path where the world was discipling me versus having God disciple me. And it made me go down some dark alleys that I'm thankful that I was able to get out. So if you can see somebody like Nicki Minaj, who was allowing the world to disciple her, especially with her being in the music industry, and now she's coming up out of that and talking about it, I think we truly need to pay attention. We need to pay attention to the things that we consume. We need to pay attention to the things that we're allowing to shape our minds and to shape our hearts. And if it's truly changing us and making us fall into certain sins like sexual sin, pride, anger, and lust, then we need to take an evaluation and have the conviction in our life to say, listen, I can't do this anymore. I have to stop. So let me know what y'all think in the comment section down below. What did you think about the conversation with Nicki Minaj to Bryce Crawford? Do you feel like she's truly repenting, or do you feel like we're going to have to see the fruits over time? I would like to know what you all think in the comment section down below. And also let me know, do you think the Illuminati is real? Let's have a conversation about it. My name is Rod Brown, and I truly appreciate you all for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please do me a quick favor by hitting that like button. Subscribe, and if you enjoy more faith-based content, and please share this with your family and friends so that we can be a blessing to each other. Until the next time, be blessed.